Hello everyone. In today's video, we are going to be creating this database. This is a project and task management database and dashboard. And it is part of my database series. So if you haven't seen any of those videos, I'm going to leave a link with a playlist so you can go ahead and check it out. Before we get started with this tutorial, let's go over what we're going to cover. This is a list of all the steps that we need to cover to create this template. The first step is the template overview. So we'll start by taking a look at the setup tab. The setup tab is where we create the information that we need for our dropdown. So we need a category dropdown, prior to dropdown, etc. So we're going to create this here. And then when we create our database, this is going to feed into the database. In this template, we have two databases, the project database and the task database. The first one is the project database. And here's where we would organize our project. So we have our project name, more information about the project, start dates, due dates, status, things like that. Then we have our task database, and here's where we're going to organize the specific tasks that we're going to tie to those projects. So we have a task here, and this task is tied to this project. And then we have some of the information that filters into the task database from the project database. Then the rest of the columns are specific to the different tasks. And finally, we have the dashboard. It's a bigger dashboard than the ones that I have created in this series because we have two databases that we're summarizing information from. So essentially, this dashboard has two parts. Think of this first half as the part for the task, so it summarizes information about the task. And this second half is for the project. So we have summarized information related to the projects. So back to our checklist. We can cross this off as we have completed the overview. Next, we'll create the setup tab. Start with a new sheet. Rename this setup tab 2, and I will refer to this tab as setup or the example tab. And when I say template tab, I'm referring to the template we're creating, which is setup 2. So I'm going to clean up the sheet, and what I mean by that is select the entire range, change the font style, change the text alignment, and then I try to remove the excess rows and columns. So if we go back to our setup tab, you can see everything after M has been removed and after 20. So I'm going to do the same thing. Highlight N all the way to Z, delete that, and then highlight everything from 21 all the way down and delete that. And of course, you can make this longer if you have a lot more information to include in your dropdown. Next, I'll select the entire row, right click. We're going to resize this, make it 30. And the first column and the last column, resize those, make those 30 as well. Going back to the example, we also want to add these columns right here in between each of the dropdown tables. Back here, select every other column, right click, change the size to 30. And now the columns where our tables are going to go, highlight those, right click, and change those to 200. So here's where the first table is going to go. Highlight the entire range, add a border, change the border style to the solid one. And here we're going to add a border for the header area. Highlight the section here, we're going to add internal borders, change it to this light gray color and this dotted line, and select horizontal borders. It's hard to see now because we still have the grid lines on. When we take it off, you should be able to see it. And now you can apply whatever colors you want. So everyone has their own personal taste and style, so you can choose the colors you want. But before you do that, I'm going to show you how I prefer to add colors when I'm creating templates in Google Sheets. So to apply a color, go to fill color, and you have all these options here. You can choose whatever color you want here. You can also bring in colors. So if you use this plus button, you can import colors using the X code, or you can upload an image with colors and then use the color picker option and choose the specific color. So there are many ways you can apply color. What I do recommend is using this custom panel right here. If you click edit, you see that you have a whole bunch of theme colors that you can select from. So selecting the colors from here is not the important part. What's important is that when you're applying the colors, you're selecting it from color palette here. So what do I mean by that? For this specific template, I have selected this vintage color, and you can click customize. You can change the colors here some more. So if you don't this color, you can reselect another color. But this panel is what's going to appear right here. Now to apply color here, all I need to do is select the color from here. So let's say I choose this one. And if I go to my example setup tab, you can see that's the same color I've chosen here. But later on, I don't want this color anymore. I want to change this color. So I can go here. I can change it to this color here, and then I'll have to go back and change these individual colors. Also go here, change it here, go here, change it here. Or alternatively, what we can do is go back to our theme color, select the pencil icon, change the color here. So let's say now I want to change it to this color here. So select that. So now it changes it here. And if we go to our setup tab, it's also changed it here automatically, our dashboard. And in every other place, we had that original color. Changes it automatically. And then we can do this for all the colors in this color palette. And that would help save so much time if you're creating several versions of a specific template, or you just want to create a template and later on worry about applying the right colors to the template. So again, I said, use whatever colors you want, but what I do recommend is using this custom color palette right here. So I'm going to apply colors from my custom color palette. So this one has already been selected. Apply a background color, this one. And now that this is done, what I'm going to do next is just select the entire table, use paint formats, paste it right here. Now select both of them, do one more, and then all my tables are done. So going back to our setup tab, now that the table is done, we can remove the grid lines. To do this, go to view, show, grid lines, and here's what it looks like. Now I'm going to copy the information from here, the placeholder information that I have here, into my template. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like. You can use the same ones, and then later on when you are ready with your own specific information, you can add it, or feel free to add your information directly into this template as we are creating it. I'm going to copy these and paste them here as paste values only, and I'll make this white so I have better contrast and bold. So here is what the final product looks like. We have a column for category, so you can add the different categories for projects. Priority, I'm going to make this left justified because it looks better this way. And by the way, these colors right here are emojis, so let me show you how to apply them. So let's say I want to add a priority that is urgent, so I'll type urgent, and I need to add an emoji before it. So to do this, go to insert emoji and select this right here, second to the last option, and here are the different colors you can apply. And because this is one for urgent, let's go with this right here. Okay, and I'll just move it around, cut it from this place, put it right in front of urgent like this. And then for status, this is going to represent the status for the task and the status for the project. The next table is assigned to. So here's where you'll add all the team members or group members or employees working on a project. And deliverable would be the different types of deliverable. I have 2 examples here. You can add more. And we have the last column for company or client. So if you're working on this project for a specific client or a company, you can add that information here. So let's go back to our checklist because we can check off this task as done, the setup tab. Next, we're going to create the first database, which is for the projects. This one right here. You'll notice something that the databases for both the project and the task are very simple. It's just a table with information. There are no charts, there are no graphs, and this is intentional because of course you can create some space above the table and add charts, add some information. That's fine. But because we have a dedicated dashboard, we're going to keep this in the raw database format and just focus on adding information here and using the dashboard to summarize the information from the table. So let's get started with the project database. We'll start by adding a new sheet, and I'll clean it up like I normally do. Change the font style, change the alignment, and I'm going to rename this sheet Project Database 2. And we're going to remove everything after M. And of course, you can keep as many rows as you want. We'll resize it though to 30 and select the first column and the last one. Resize those to 30 as well. Here is where the table is going to start, the header for the table. Row number 2, we'll add a border around that. And then select the rest of the table. So all the way down, add a border around that. And I want to add just internal horizontal borders. Click on horizontal borders. It's going to add this dark color, but I'm going to change it by clicking back on the border color, change it to this gray, and change the style to this dotted line. It's going to be hard to see because we still have the grid line showing. When we remove it, you should be able to see it better. Now go ahead and apply whatever colors you want. Here's what I'm going to be using, a color from my color palette. And then now I'm going to go back to the project database because I'm going to reuse the placeholder information. I'm just going to copy what I have here just for the header. For now, paste it right here, values only. Now go over each column so you know what each column stands for. We'll start with the first one. This is a project name. Resize it to 200, and this is going to be a text column, so no formatting is required. The next is for the company/client. Resize this 150. This is going to be a drop-down column, so we do need to make some changes here. Select a few rows, data validation, click on add rule. And before we add rule, you can already see that it has automatically applied drop-downs to this. We're going to make some changes though. The first thing we're going to do is remove this number 11 or whatever the last number is that you have, because we're just randomly selecting a few rows. So whatever your last number is, you're going to remove it. We want it to end with a column letter. So this would be column C. So you can see the range here is C3 to C. And once we do that, it automatically selects everything all the way down to 1,000. Next, we're going to change the criteria from drop down to drop down from range. Select this icon, go to setup tab number 2. We want to add company/clients. So select this entire area, click OK. And here is where you can change the style if you want to arrow or plain text. I'm going to leave it as chip for this template and click done. And now we can go ahead and select our company/client's name. The next is delivery type. This is also a drop down. So select a few rows, add rule, remove the row number, drop down from range, select data range. It's going to be deliverable type. So this one right here. Click OK, click done. All right, project priority is going to be the same thing. Select a few rows, add rule, remove row number, drop down from range, project priority in our setup tab right here. Click OK, done. Project lead is also going to be a drop down. So this is the person responsible for the project. So we have a column here for assigned to. We can also change this to employees or team members. So just make it specific to what you are using it for. So let's just say these are team members, okay? Back here, we can apply drop down, add rule, change to from range. Don't forget to remove the row number. And we're going to select team members here and done. So now we can assign the project to a specific member of our team. The next two rows are dates, so resize them a bit. Next, we're going to add the date picker option. This means that when I double click in this cell, I want the calendar to pop up so I can select a date. I'm going to do it for these two columns at the same time. So select a few of them, click on add rule, remove the number after the last column. So now this is going to be G3 to H. So it's going to select everything in this column and everything in this column. Click on reject the inputs because we always want it to be a date selected in this column. And if you are going to be sharing this template with somebody or you're making this template for somebody else, check this box so it shows them that they need to enter a valid date in this column. Click done. So now when we double click here, you can see we can select the dates from the calendar. One more thing to do with my date columns is change the format. So select the range, go to format, number, go to custom date and time. We have a variety of date and time formats to select from. I like to use this one. This is showing up because I have used this recently. You might have to scroll down or even adjust some of the ones here so it fits the way you want it to show up. So I'm using this option here. So I'm going to click on that, click apply, and now it looks like this. So these two columns are done. The next column is a project status. This is going to be a drop down as well. So the same steps, add rule, remove the row number, select data range, project status. So we're using this status table. We're going to reuse it for the task as well. Not all the options here will apply for project and not all the options here will apply for task because we're sharing this table. If you want to create two, you can absolutely do so. You can create one that says project status, create another table that says task status, and then use them separately for the respective databases. But for this, we're sharing. So now that we've selected that, click OK, click done. Back here, works fine. The next column is a completed date. This is the date the project has been completed. So it's going to be similar to this column. So what I'm going to do first is select this entire range, use paint format, and just paste it here. So what this is going to do is match the column width to this one, and it's going to apply this date style to the column. Now I can go back to the data validation rule, click on that, select data range, and now I can add another range and select this range. Again, I'm just selecting a few rows. So I can remove the last row number and it selects everything in that column. Click OK and done. So now when I double click here, the date picker option shows up and it shows up in the correct format. The output link, this is a section for a link. So let's say you're working on a project and the project can be accessed through a link, maybe a Notion link or a Word document link, whatever link that is related to the project, you can apply it here. So this doesn't really have to be formatted in any way. Okay, it's just a space to add information. So we'll leave it as is, make the size 200. And then the last one is a place for notes to add additional information that doesn't go into any of these columns. I'm going to resize it, make it 200 as well. Change the alignment to left and change the text wrapping to wrap so that if the notes section is really long, it wraps and it shows up in two lines in the same cell. So the table is somewhat done, so we can remove the grid line. So view, show grid lines. And the last thing we want to do is to add a filter. So you can add a filter by selecting the header, go to the menu bar. Towards the end, you see this icon that is a funnel. Click on that and it applies the filter to the table. What I like to do though is select the entire table because sometimes it might stop applying the filter to the table. So what I do is I apply it to the entire table at once. So select everything all the way down to 1,000. So the entire table is selected. Go back and click create a filter. And now I know that it has applied it to the entire table, because you can't really see this clearly maybe from my screen, but on your screen you see that it's surrounded by this green line and it goes all the way down. So the entire table is captured in the filter. So now let's go back to our example. We're going to copy the placeholder information from here just to save time. And you can do the same. You can use placeholder information, or you can apply your own information. So if you already have the information that's going to go into your project database, you can go ahead and apply that. To keep this tutorial going along, I'm going to reuse the information from here, paste it here. And for the project priority, I'm actually going to change the alignment to left, just because when you have these icons next to it, it looks better left justified. I'll keep the header center justified, but the rest of the column should be left justified. And I'm going to change one to urgent, because we added that additional option in the drop down. So here's what the table's looking like. It's pretty much done. So we can go back to our checklist and let's check this off. We can check this off as well. So the data validation rules were the ones for the dates and the ones for the drop down. So we did those. So we can check this off as well. Now we're going to repeat the same steps for the task database. Here is the task database. To recreate it, we'll start by adding another sheet. Call this task database 2. Same step to clean it up, change the fonts, change the alignments, and remove everything after M. Select the entire range all the way down, resize it to 30. First column, last column, resize 30. And here's where our table header is going to go. So add a border around it. And now select the rest of the table all the way down, add a border around that as well. Internal horizontal borders, and change it if you need to. I'm just changing the style here, which of course, again, you cannot see because we still have the grid lines. So apply whatever color you want to the header. I'm just going to keep it consistent with what I did before. And then the same thing back here, copy the headers, paste it, and we have one column missing. So we needed one extra column. So I'm just going to undo that, add one column, paste the headers one more time. There we go. So next we're going to go through each individual column so you know what each column represents. And then we're going to format the columns and adjust the column width as necessary. First one is number. We can resize this to 30. And this is going to be the task name. This is a text column. So just resize it to whatever works for you. And let's do 300 just because the task name can be long. So if you also want to do the same thing that we did for the project database here, which is change this to left alignment, it just looks better for this type of information. And then change it to wrap so that if the task name is really long, it just wraps and shows up in 2 lines. You may need to adjust the row height if it doesn't show completely. For now, we'll leave it this way and we'll work on the next column, which is a project name. So let's change this to 200 and we're going to add a drop down here because we want to tie each task to a project. Okay, so to do this, select a few rows, data validation, add rule. So remove the row number so it applies it to the entire column. Drop down from range, select data range. The data range is going to be the project name. So go back to our project database and here is what we're going to select. So select that, remove the row number so it selects everything all the way down to 1,000. Click OK. And what I'm going to do different here is change it to arrow. You could even do plain text, and actually that might work better for this look. So choose whatever works for you, but I'm in between arrow or plain text. And the reason why plain text is that it makes it look more seamless, but it might not be very clear that that's a drop down. So maybe stick with arrow, especially if you're going to be sharing this template with other people, and click done. So right now it has the projects tied to this column. Next is the deliverable type tied to the project. And we can display some of the information related to this project automatically. So we don't have to reselect the deliverable type for the project priority, and the project lead. These are going to be automatically filtered into the table. So let's adjust the column width for these 3 tables. Let's make them 200 for all of them. And we're going to filter the information. So I'll show you what that looks like here. I have this a different color because this information will be pulled into the sheet using filters. So first change these colors. This is optional, by the way. It's just personal taste and preference. You don't have to do it. And then what I'm going to do next is just select the entire range and apply a different color. And then I'm going to apply some borders. And this may be necessary to make something different in this area, especially if you're sharing the template with other users and you don't want them to delete the formulas by mistake. There are ways to protect the formulas, but visually you can also guide people to know that there are formulas here by changing the color of the range. So now we're going to apply formulas here to filter the deliverable type, the project priority, and the project lead when the project name is selected here. All right, so going back here, it's a simple filter formula. It's going to filter the information in project database D, and that is a deliverable type. That's what's in project database D. And it's going to compare the project name, that's what's in D3. Right here, you can see it's selected, to project database B. And in project database B is the project name. When value in D3 equals the value here, what is the deliverable tied to the project name in D3? And this if condition here is just to spit out blank if there's nothing in this column D3 right here. So that's all the formula is. We're going to copy it. Go back here. We'll paste the formula right here. And here's where you can make changes. So if your tab name is not project database, as in this case, because we're using this database, project database 2, and if you're using a different name, here's where you can change it. So we're changing it from project database to project database 2. I do encourage you, however, try to use the same rows, columns, and ranges that I am using. Why? Because it would make the formulas work seamlessly. If you don't use the same rows, columns, and ranges that I am using, that's fine. You just need to pay attention to the formula and adjust them, similar to what I'm doing here, adjusting the name, and then you could go and review your formula and make sure that the cells here are highlighting the correct cells. So I have D3 here, it is highlighting the project name, that's correct. Our project deliverable is in column D, and our project name is in column B. So we know all those are correct, so we can hit enter. And now nothing shows up because we haven't selected a project name, so let's test it out. So when we select Engineering Showcase, it says YouTube video. Let's go to our project database, Engineering Showcase, YouTube video. So that works. And what's nice about this formula is we can apply the same formula across to F and G. To do this, we're gonna first copy the formula, this one that has the correct tab name, and project priority is the next one we want to filter. So back here, we're going to make note of the column for project priority. So that's E, project lead is F. So we can do the same with project lead. We're going to paste the same formula. Now we want to filter column E. So instead of D, it's going to be column E. So anywhere we have column D from our project database 2, change that to E. Only appears here, so we only have to do it once, and that is E3, column E, enter. And then do the same thing for here. Now we're changing it from D to F because project lead is in column F. So change that and hit enter. So now this works. Let's change it to something else. The information updates automatically. So copy this and now select the entire table all the way down to 1000. Right click, paste formula only. And nothing shows up, of course, because we have nothing selected. Let's go all the way down. Select a project name. You can see that it filters the information that we want. So delete this. So it works the way it's supposed to. Next, we want to add the task lead. This is different from the project lead. So you can have a project assigned to a person, but a specific task underneath that project can be assigned to somebody else. So that's what we're going to do here. I'll resize this, make this 200, and add a drop down. So select a few rows, add rule, remove the row number, drop down from range, select range, go to our setup tab, and select our team members. Click OK, done. And now we can select assign the task to a specific team member. Next, we're going to do task priority. Let's add our drop down for task priority. Select a few, add rule, the same steps. Drop down from range, task priority would be this one. We're using this priority for our task and for our project. If you want, you can also split this. So have two different tables, one for project priority, one for task priority. If it makes sense for you to split them, go ahead and do so. So I'm selecting all of the options here, done, and that should appear here without a problem. And I'm going to do the same thing just for the aesthetics. Change this to left justified. I'll change this back to center, just the header, because it looks better with the emojis or the icons left justified. So we have a due date. And what I'm going to do is select this column and this one because these are two date columns. So J and L, I'll do them together. So first I will resize them, make them 150. And next, what I want to do is assign a data validation rule such that when I double click here, just like we did before, right? The date picker option shows up. Select some rows, add rule, select data range, and I'll remove 8. So it selects everything. And I'm going to add another range, and this will be for completion dates. So select a few of them, remove the row number. So now we have the entire column J and entire column L selected. Click OK. Change the criteria to is validate, just like we did before. Reject the inputs and check this box if you want. Click done. Add your desired formatting for date. So I'm just selecting both of them one more time. Go to format, number, and I'm going to choose this date option here. So now let's test it out. Double click, select the dates. The date shows up in the right format. So let's jump back to column K. It's going to be a task status. The task status is going to be a drop down, add rule, drop down from range, back to our setup tab. We're using the status as well. Click done and it shows up here OK. And the last is the notes section. We can do the exact same thing since we already formatted the notes section here. So select that, use the paint format, go back to our task database and just apply it right here. So it applies the exact same style. We don't have to redo the entire thing. And this table is done. So what we're going to do now is do the same thing. Select the entire table, click on the filter option. So we have a filter for the entire table, and view, show, and remove the grid lines. And the table is essentially done. The last step would be to go back here and add our placeholders. Here's where you can add whatever placeholder you want. I'm reusing these to save time, so I'm just going to paste them here as values only, and automatically all this information is pulled in. And I think I'm going to change the project alignment to left justified. Just resize this, see what the size is. Let's do 250. Okay, so the rest of them here, I'm copying and pasting values only right here. So I have the entire table filled out and everything works the way it's supposed to. Back to our checklist, we can go ahead and cross this off. So we did the table and we added out data validation rules. Next, we're going to work on creating the dashboard structure.